And we're back with episode 014 of the Beacon broadcast. It's December 26, 2023. The usual suspects are here.
That's right. Rick Ravenheart.
And Taylor / Kodaks, whatever you like.
It's been a busy week.
We forgot to wish the listeners a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
So, sorry about that.
Yeah.
A belated Merry Christmas. Hope it was all lovely and pleasant and nice and
I think
warm.
A day late's not that bad.
No, I did receive someone's Christmas card in the mail today.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And I accepted it. So I think the listeners should accept our...
I sent multiple texts today.
Oh, okay.
Merry Christmas.
You forget, like, your mom or someone important?
Yeah, friends and stuff.
But let's just jump right in. What have we been playing?
Aside from popping in Honkai Star Rail for a minute, not much. Just wrapping Christmas presents and dealing with family and all kinds of Christmas shenanigans.
Yeah.
What about you?
Dealing with family, but in, like, the best way, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of
like,
course.
You
know what I mean.
Yeah.
Dealing with, like, being there on time.
You're playing cards. You're the dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I had a couple days off. I took a couple days off.
Mm-hmm.
Last Thursday and Friday, and my girlfriend's been really sick. Not COVID, thankfully.
That's good.
But we were kind of separated. I was in the room and she wanted to be on the couch, so my PlayStation Portal came very much so in handy.
I bet you're glad you bought it.
I have it. But I was spending most of my time playing the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the Hidden Treasures of Area Zero Part 2, the Indigo Disc.
Yep.
Downloadable content. And I went hard on it. I've been working. I think last week I said I had, like, played through the story of it.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of cool optional extra stuff to do.
Yep.
And
as with every Pokemon game.
One thing I want to tell you, there's that, like, they've showed it in the trailers, and there's this, like, new little shiny turtle looking Pokemon.
Yeah, right.
Okay, spoiler alert, at some point you capture it.
Right.
After you capture it and the credits have rolled, take that turtle. The game doesn't tell you to do this, but put that turtle in your party.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
Terragapos.
Terragapos. It's like, something like that.
I do know about, like, the stellar Terra type and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But you want to put that legendary Pokemon in your party, and you want to go back to the Kitakami area from the first DLC.
Yep.
And you want to go to the pool at the top of the mountain. Crystal pool.
I know a pool. It's got, like, purple flowers and stuff. Is that the one you're talking about?
There's, like, Terra crystals, like, jutting out of it. It's at the very center of Kitakami. Maybe you haven't worked your way up the mountain all the way yet.
Okay.
Anyways, there's just a pool with crystals. Because there's, like, this crazy scene.
Okay.
Yeah, crazy scene. And it unlocks some cool stuff, like a new title screen and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. New music for the title screen. And then they just announced that on January 11th, there's going to be an epilogue added to the game, assuming you own the DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I guess everyone can download the update, but I don't think you'll be able to access the epilogue unless you have the DLC.
Okay.
Because it involves the original 3 kind of friendly characters from the base game checking out the DLC stuff with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So do you need to have beaten both DLCs?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
You'll always have access to it as long as you download that update.
Okay.
It's not like it's a temporary epilogue or something like that.
That's good.
Yeah, that would be weird.
That kind of stuff has happened.
Yeah, there have been some weird things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. But there's a couple things in the game that they added. At some point during the second DLC, you unlock these things called barbecue. They call them barbecues, BBQs.
Okay.
but it stands for like Blueberry something something. Blueberry is the name of the academy in the second game,
right?
Or in the second DLC. That is located off the coast of Unova, and you go as a transfer student.
It's mentioned in the first DLC.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The two characters you kind of interact with are from that academy.
Right.
Anyways, that's how you earn BP.
Okay.
So BP is back in the game, which is like a point system. Usually it's been used, you've only been able to get it from like competitive kinds of things.
Right. Isn't that what you get from touching Terra Crystal?
No,
like,
that's LP,
LP,
League points.
That's right.
Yeah. So League points kind of took over what BP was in previous games, but they brought BP back, and it kind of has a bunch of different purposes.
Wait a minute. This is what started in Emerald, right?
Yes, with the battle tower.
Yeah, okay, I remember.
So with this BP, you can invite like trainers from Paldea, like your teachers and Elite Four members and things like that, to come like guest as teachers at the Blueberry Academy. Oh. And after you've invited them 3 times, they trade a Pokemon with you.
Oh.
And so this has added like 20 some odd new in-game trades to the game.
Okay.
So, but in order to invite them, you have to have the BP. So I've been like grinding BP to invite them all, because I like collecting all of the various in-game trades offered in the games, which is nice, because Scarlet and Violet only had 3 in-game trades to begin with, and now there's like 24 more or something like that.
Wasn't one of them version exclusive? I'm pretty sure.
Not for Scarlet and Violet. There have been version exclusive in-game trades. Started going back to, I think, Red and Blue.
Yeah, Red and Green.
Red, Blue, and Green, actually.
Yeah.
All have exclusive trades.
You're right.
And so I've been doing that. And then after you get to a certain point that you've invited so many, you can invite a special character. I won't spoil it because it's kind of a mystery in the game. But anyways, after you beat them in a battle, they trade you just like all the other ones do. And you've done it 3 times. And they give you a shiny Blitzel.
Oh.
Yeah.
So another guaranteed shiny.
Another guaranteed shiny.
All right.
Now, I consider that like as part of my in-game trade collection.
Yeah, as you would.
And not part of my like shiny collection, so I still need to hunt a Blitzel for myself.
I gotcha.
But one last thing that I did over the weekend was there was a special boost to shiny Flabebe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I participated in that.
And so Flabebe, for those that don't know, is this Pokemon that has 5 different
colors.
5 different colors.
And 2 evolutions.
And 2 evolutions. So that means you need 15 shiny Flabebe to have the whole set.
Right.
So I already had, I think, 1 of each, but like different colors. Mm-hmm. But I spent probably about 7 to 8 hours across 2 days getting all the other Flabebes I needed.
And that's tricky because Flabebe is not easy to spot with the shinies.
No.
They're super tiny.
So what I had to do, this particular outbreak, it was boosted by 0.5%. Mm-hmm. So you could get the shiny chance rate up to, I think it was like 1 out of 144 or something like that, which is pretty low for a shiny.
Yeah, right.
So what I would do is, because you can't really tell Flabebe unless you like somehow get the camera just right.
I use the camera app that the character has to like you're going to take a picture.
So I was doing that, and it was just so excruciatingly tedious that what I decided to do was I would go to the outbreak, I would save my game, I would make a shiny sandwich immediately, and I would just auto-battle my way through all the Flabebes as they spawned. Mm-hmm. And then, for those of you that don't know, when your Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet is auto-battling Pokemon in the wild, if it comes across a shiny, it won't attack it.
Yeah.
It'll do this little like, I'm not going to attack that.
Right.
So I just found my shinies that way. And I found that was actually very quick.
Really?
I found 1 to 2 shinies almost every time I did that.
I got you.
Yeah.
I did a Floette outbreak once, and the strategy I figured out was run around. Because of their wild behavior, they follow your character, and you can get them to all line up, and then I just pull out the camera app, look them all over, like scan them.
That's what I was doing at first.
Really?
Yeah, and I did find a couple shinies that way, but I ultimately found it slower compared to just
soft resetting.
Yeah, just basically if I didn't find anything, I would just close the game, reopen it, and make the shiny sandwich all over again until I had all I needed for that color. Mm-hmm. Or if I only found 1 in the whole group, I was like, that's worth it. I'll just find another blue pack of Flabébé spawns.
Right.
So unfortunately, the event is gone.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, there was like a Delibird event where Delibird had shiny boost, and then that already came and went. It was just for like the weekend, and now there's a new one where there's like Duraludon and a couple other dragon Pokemon.
Yep.
But they are not shiny boosted. They have increased chance of having a mark.
Oh, okay.
For those of you that want to
Care
collect
about
marks on your Pokemon. Which are essentially just ribbons. They're the same exact function.
They basically replaced ribbons.
Well, there's still ribbons.
They
still add new ribbons. In fact, the Pokemon that are traded to you from the people you invite to the academy, they actually have a brand new ribbon on them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's been my Pokemon update for the week.
All right. I did turn it on. I didn't mention it when I talked about what I was playing, but I did turn it on to try to do the Iron Bundle raid.
How'd that go?
Not good.
It was rough. I put together Hariyama. Well, here's the thing. Because I was doing the Flabébé outbreak, I couldn't update my game because if I connected to get the Iron Bundle raid,
it'd be gone.
It would make the Flabébé thing go away. So I only had like one day to do the Iron Bundle raid, and it was kind of rough. You have to get like things just right for that raid. I made a Hariyama. The new has like thick fat, so it would take less damage from like water and fire stuff. And anyways, it was close, even with like a very particularly specially built. But that was me soloing it. I'm sure if like multiple people brought a Hariyama, it wouldn't have been so bad.
I tried to do it with other people, and
oh no, that had to be rough.
Yeah,
it's randoms. Yeah,
it didn't work out. I just let it go.
I don't know if they were just doing that because of Christmas.
I think so.
Okay,
it seems like a Christmas,
because usually they rerun all the Mightiest Mark. So it might come back this coming weekend. If that's the case, I can let you borrow my Hariyama.
Well, have the Pikachu and Eevee ones come back ever? Because those were like kind of special. Yeah,
they were for the anniversary.
Yeah, I don't think... I have both of those.
Okay.
If this is anything like that...
Yeah, it might have been. I mean, maybe winter 2024.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
That'd be
or
nice.
Christmas. But yeah, it made me wonder, like, oh my god, if they do all the Paradox Pokemon.
Yeah, right. That was new in that they added a Paradox Pokemon.
Yeah, which they've never done as a Mightiest Mark before.
So we'll see how that goes.
Other thing I wanted to mention is, Walking Wake and Iron Leaves.
Yep.
Which were earlier this year available in raids.
They're back, right?
They're back right now in raids, and you can only catch one per save file. They're not Mightiest Mark. They're only 5-star.
Okay.
They were not added into the DLC as like things you can find. So the only way to obtain them is from these raid events.
Yeah.
They're kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like I thought for sure they would be added into like the DLC as like a static encounter.
Right.
Because they did add new Johto trio and
Gen 5 trio.
The Gen 5 trio Paradox Pokemon into the game, and they are just static one-time encounters that you can get.
That is weird. It's kind of like almost a nod to Crystal version in a way, because Suicune was special. It was specially encountered. And this is kind of like that a little bit.
I mean, Virizion.
I'm reading into it, but
a little bit, yeah. I mean, Suicune is special, I would say. Of the trio, Suicune's the most special.
Of course.
Yeah. Anyways, we've gone off enough about this. What have we been up to? I mean, Christmas. we touched on it for a second earlier, but you wanna riff on your Christmas?
Yeah, sure. I went to my girlfriend's family, then I went to my family, and then I went to work. Yeah. I think I've mentioned it in a previous episode, but I work night shifts, so I work from 10:30 to 6:30 a.m. So that was rough. Yeah, I worked the previous night, went to stuff all day, and then went to work.
Oh,
it was
man.
one of those.
I don't know how you're here today.
Yeah.
You literally spent Christmas in the trenches.
Yep. Yeah. Literally, yeah. Home Alone style.
It's good company.
Yeah.
You and Kevin McAllister.
Right.
Hanging out.
I mean, I was obsessed when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Setting traps and ruining my grandparents.
Do you remember there was like spy gear for kids?
Yeah.
Like they sold it as like toys.
There was a whole fad. I was in elementary school and I got into it.
Yeah, me too.
Pretty hard.
They had like sensors that you could like place.
I have
so,
one
like,
of those.
People would trip the sensor and like
motion sensors.
Yeah.
And they're like a little beeping alarm thing.
Yeah.
I had a few of those.
So it's like you want to know if someone's walking towards your room. Like
Yeah.
maybe you're up late playing on your Game Boy. And you want to.
If you were good enough with like electronics, you could probably wire that to your bedroom.
Oh yeah.
Have
like
a little
the
alarm.
door. Yeah, something. Yeah, I remember trying to use that stuff and thinking I would like sit and like hide like.
Oh, I thought it was like the most high tech thing ever.
It's only $10.
Yeah, right. I could have
some
a lot
infrared.
of these. Yeah.
And you imagine you set them up all through the house.
They had like night vision goggles back in the day. Yeah.
Oh my god, you're right. Yeah. I don't know what kind of night vision were they though.
I think it was just shining a light
through like a green filter.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're seeing in night vision.
Right.
Only works in the light.
Yeah, I think it was just a flashlight type of deal with like your green visor on.
Right.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, it was almost like a green visor that had like little like LED lights attached to the side.
Yeah.
Whereas like it wasn't even like coming through the
night vision. It's a flashlight that you wear on your head.
Man, what was that brand? It was like Spy Gear or something like that.
Something like that. And that's also around the time Spy Kids came out. I think that played on the trend.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was there.
Yeah.
Like I was into it.
You and your shiitake mushrooms?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, I actually hate those movies.
You hate Spy Kids?
Yeah,
So you watch them like
I thought
begrudgingly?
They were dumb. I thought they were dumb as hell when I was a kid.
But you still wanted to see them?
No, I never freaking watched them.
You never watched them?
No, I didn't.
What, dude? Okay.
Yeah.
So you hate them? How do you hate something you don't even know?
There's enough information in the trailer to tell me that I hate it. Like, they're surfing on lava and stuff. And they're kids. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah?
No.
I mean, it's supposed to be, like, imaginative.
Yeah, but the spy is, like, a real thing.
Right.
This isn't fantasy.
It's not James Bond Jr.
Yeah.
You wanted that.
I wanted that.
Rather
exactly. I'd rather have
Jr.
that. Give me that.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, it would be great.
PG James Bond?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That would be like a kid's dream.
Yeah. I feel like we got stuff like that. Like Baby Geniuses.
Yeah, see, that's the opposite direction of what I'm talking about.
That's like Baby Bond.
Right,
You don't want Baby Bond.
No.
You want 10-year-old
That
Bond.
one I saw and I actually thought it was... I was a kid, but I barely remember it. But I remember it being okay.
What about Clock Stoppers?
I remember that. I forgot what that movie was called.
Okay.
Clock Stoppers. Yeah, I saw that.
He had the watch on his hand that he could press a button.
Yeah, the concept blew my mind.
Oh yeah.
Man. The movie and the characters and stuff. There was some kind of dumb stuff in
Okay, there's this scene in the movie.
Here we go.
In Clock Stoppers. Okay, so it's like this, like, I don't know. Maybe he's in high school. Maybe he's 19. I can't remember the age of the guy.
Something like that.
And he's friends with this like old guy or something like.
Right.
Or this older guy. I can't remember. It's almost like a Marty and Doc kind of thing. And then this girl, his crush or whatever, gets involved or something, or like some friend.
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyways, there's this weird scene in the movie, where, like, she's walking around in like a towel in like some hotel room, like while the two guys are there, and they're like holding the watch and stuff. And I don't know. I always just thought, like, what is going on? Like,
yeah, this is weird.
Yeah, and then I'm like, are they pausing the watch and like doing weird stuff?
Right.
You know, like.
So the watch thing, right? It's a stopwatch, and you go.
It doesn't pause time.
No, it slows it way down to the point where it's almost stopped.
Yeah.
And it's called hyper time.
Hyper time.
Right. And then there's one scene in the movie toward the end of the movie where they're in a chamber where they're in hyper time.
Yes.
And then he uses the watch to go into like double hyper time.
Right.
And his molecules are supposedly moving so fast that he can like move through a wall. Like he can put his hand through a wall.
I don't even remember that.
So he puts his hands through the wall, grabs one of the bad guys like head, and like slams him against the wall.
Him into the wall.
Right. But how was he able to grab the guy's head if his hands are moving
went through the guy's head?
Yeah, exactly.
And like scrambled his brains.
Yeah, and that did it for me.
You were like,
even as a little kid, I'm like, nope, this does make sense.
There's one other scene that sticks out in the movie. It's at the very end. It's really weird. So like some guy that they've been working with who was old, somehow he finds a way to like reverse his age, and now he's like a 12-year-old. So this guy was like 40.
Yeah.
Or like late 30s or something.
Right.
And then at the end of the movie, somehow using the...
No.
Hold on. You can tell me how I'm wrong in a second.
Okay.
Somehow he de-ages himself, and he's like a 12-year-old now. And then he gets in a car with the protagonist's like younger sister, who's like 12.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Hey, babe."
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, what the heck is going on here?
I was thinking of a different scene, but the old guy that you're talking about comes home to his wife at the end of the movie. And he's aged like 30 years because he spent so much time in hyper time.
Yeah, there's like the professor or whatever that he's like friends with, and then there's like this other character who's kind of like, I think he's like comic relief, but he's like helping them from the inside or something like that.
Right.
But anyways, he gets de-aged to like a tween. And then the protagonist, the girl that I was talking about earlier, and then the older guy and the kid's sister all get in a car together.
Yeah, that's pretty
weird.
They
like drive off into the sunset, and then like they're speeding down a street, and a cop car like turns on their lights, and then they hit the watch, and then the cop car's like,
slows way down.
Yeah. I remember thinking that looked pretty cool. I was like, how is the car going fast, but the cop car is like in slow-mo?
I don't remember this part at all.
No?
No.
Anyways, yeah. Weird. This was a weird time for... Nickelodeon was doing a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Harriet the Spy.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Snow Day.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Snow Day.
Snow Day? You don't remember Snow Day?
It rings a bell.
It had the kid from Drake and Josh, the bigger one, who's now not big.
Okay.
Remember Drake and Josh?
No.
Yeah,
See, I didn't grow up with Nickelodeon.
That's when Nickelodeon went into its like Disney era, where they were doing all these weird, like very fake live action TV shows that I couldn't stand. Anyways,
we have a lot to talk about today,
or not. Anyways, my Christmas, real quick, very similar to yours, except I didn't go to work.
Right.
But yeah, I just hopped from kind of one Christmas thing to the next, but it was actually really nice.
Yeah.
Had a good time. Sometimes I dread Christmas, like all the family obligations, and it's just like overwhelming.
It just gets stressful.
All the people I gotta hug, and
all the gifts you have to wrap.
And make sure you didn't forget anyone. And I don't know, it was pretty chill.
It gets kind of stressful sometimes.
But yeah, I had a good one, so I'm glad to hear you did too. Aside from the like no sleep.
I mean,
thing.
yeah, I was, walking asleep for all of it, so But yeah, it was great. Like, I actually did enjoy Christmas.
All right, let's jump into our first and only real news story for the week.
Yeah.
And it's a big one. Insomniac Games, the creators of games like Spyro, The Dragon, Ratchet and Clank, the recent Marvel Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They suffered a massive ransom hack.
Yeah.
And so on December 12th, and I'm probably going to pronounce their name wrong, the Rhysida? The RHYSIDA.
Rhysida Group.
The Rhysida Group announced that they had stolen a massive trove of private documents and data from Insomniac Games. They set a deadline of 7 days and were asking for $2 million in Bitcoin, or $2 million worth of Bitcoin, I guess I should say, to not release the data. Sony did not pay the ransom, and nobody else did. So all of those documents, the 1.3 million files, people are still combing through these.
It's going to take a long time to glean everything from what's been
leaked.
I
mean, and some of it's like private, like people's personal like information, like
their HR files and stuff. Yeah,
like stuff that is not good to be out there.
Right.
I mean, none of it's good to be out there. No studio wants to have,
Yeah, it's bad for the studio. It's bad for business.
Bad for morale.
Yeah,
it's not good. But they released the 1.3 million files on December 19th. So we're going to talk about some of them. We're not going to talk about so much of the salacious stuff. Mm-hmm. We're just going to kind of touch on some things that are relevant to people who play video games.
Right.
So the biggest thing would be their roadmap for the next 10 years.
Which is insane.
The next 10 years of Insomniac games.
Insomniac has no surprises left, We know everything they're going to be doing for the next 10 years.
Until 2032.
Yeah.
So why don't you read these off?
So, and this is something I want to talk about after I read it, but Marvel's Venom, they have that scheduled for 2025. Marvel's Wolverine for 2026. Marvel's Spider-Man 3 for 2028. Ratchet and Clank, probably,
the next one.
Some installment.
Yeah.
For 2029. Marvel's X-Men for 2030. And a new untitled intellectual property for 2031 to 2032. Now, you might notice a pattern.
Okay, let's talk real quick. Out of those games that you just announced,
yep,
the only one we knew about previously was Marvel's Wolverine in 2026. Well, we didn't know it was coming in 2026, but we knew that they were working on a Wolverine game.
Right.
The Venom game is probably sort of like a in-between game between Spider-Man 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. The same way that the Miles Morales game,
like a spin-off that's canonical.
Yeah, like a sort of a sequel, but not really a numbered entry.
Right. Yeah.
And then Spider-Man 3. I mean, that was probably a given to happen at some point.
Yeah, of course.
But X-Men, and then a new Ratchet and Clank is nice to see.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's the one thing I'm actually excited about.
I mean, the Untitled IP.
Yeah,
if it's actually an original IP,
yeah,
that could be pretty.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
That is, yeah. So,
but this is like PlayStation 6 territory we're talking about over here.
It is, yeah. So, I mean, you'll notice that all of these, save for 2, are Marvel
games,
and of the 2 that aren't, one is Ratchet and Clank, which is an existing franchise. So they're not looking to put out a new IP. Or even thinking about it, if it's even going to be a new IP, until 2031. And this is, for me, a symptom of a problem that a lot of studios are just a part of. And that is no original ideas, no originality. We're seeing this with film in a much bigger way, I feel like.
Okay.
But with games, all the new properties are coming from indies. In a large way.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, we had some original games, I think, announced at the Game Awards. Some of those games were not existing IPs. But, that's an exception to the rule. A lot of new, announcements are just sequels and Marvel, video game adaptions to stuff that's not, video game IP.
Well, I think Insomniac has become a victim of its own success.
Yeah.
With the first Marvel Spider-Man game, which I love. It's a great game, but it's now got them on, like, a track of, now we just make Spider-Man adjacent stuff.
Right. Marvel and stuff.
So, Marvel's Venom, which Venom appeared in Marvel Spider-Man 2, which came out earlier this year. And then, a Wolverine game, which, I mean, I don't want to be too... I don't want to be, like, down on it completely. I get it. It sucks that they're just making Marvel games.
You're right.
But, like, they're probably going to make a really good one.
Yeah, I'm no doubt all of these are going to be good. They're going to be good because you know what their budgets are going to look like.
Yeah.
And
the pedigree. I mean, Insomniac.
But I'm not going to play them.
Okay.
Like, it's Marvel. It doesn't interest me.
I remember we were sitting down at one of those PlayStation theater shows during E3 in like 2016 or 17.
Was that when they announced the first Spider-Man?
No, but they showed off like a really big chunk of like playable gameplay of it.
Yeah, right.
And you turned to me and you're like, that looks like a fun video game.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And it is a fun video game. Like, I don't need to play it to know it's fun. It, like, everybody who has played it tells me it's fun.
Yeah.
And looking at that, it was like a 10-minute presentation.
Yeah.
Of, just Spider-Man swinging around.
Yeah, beating up bad guys.
Yeah, I could tell that it was fun. I'm not saying these are bad games.
Right.
That's not at all what I'm saying. It just sucks that we don't have like an original idea coming out of Insomniac until potentially 2031.
I have a hypothetical for you. Let's say in between there was a Spyro 4.
That's better than just making Marvel.
Okay,
gotcha.
That wouldn't that would blow my mind. First of all, because Activision has the rights, so I don't know how that would have...
Right. So something happened.
Yeah, something weird happened there. But, like, the thought of Insomniac going back to their heritage and, like, all right, let's go back to where it started.
That would be a good sign, too. Because, I mean, just Ratchet and Clank being in there is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because that's their roots, too.
Yeah, at least there's one. I mean, God, during the PS3, there was a new Ratchet and Clank game, like, every year.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, every year there was a new Ratchet and Clank game.
Not all of them were good, I heard.
Well, they kind of did different, like, genres. Like, there was a tower defense one. There was, like a co-op, not quite a party game, but it was like Ratchet and Clank All for One or something like that.
Yeah, right.
So they experimented with other things. But, that's when you could get away with cheaper games and smaller games.
Right.
And now it seems like games have to be...
Yeah, they have to be massive open world.
What's interesting about Spider-Man is they're recycling... Now they built New York.
Mm-hmm.
All they got to do is keep touching it up.
Right.
So it's like... That's got to cut down massively on...
Well, that is the same for all sequels of all games that take place in the same world,
Yeah, I mean, part of me is kind of like, can Spider-Man go somewhere else?
Yeah, I get it.
Like, he's on a trip to Tokyo or something? Like, that sounds exciting.
Right.
Like, that would get me like, oh yeah, here we go. But, like, if it's just New York over and over and over again, I don't know if I can be convinced to just... keep going back there repeatedly.
Yeah, when they recycle the entire map like that, like this was, of course, you know where I'm gonna go with this. The biggest complaint for Tears of the Kingdom was that they recycled the map, which I don't hold against the company so long as they do it well.
Yeah,
and they introduce enough new stuff to it.
Right, and there was a lot new there, and there was a lot new in Spider-Man 2. So,
but you can't just keep turning that same thing out.
Yeah, if the next Zelda is the same map again,
right.
It's like, okay, this time there's a dark world,
right.
Then there's a problem.
That would be cool, but
yeah. But yeah, so a lot. If you're into Insomniac's Marvel games so far, you're gonna be feasting for the next decade.
Yeah. You're set.
That's all you're getting is Marvel. The idea. Okay, I mean, I'm excited by an X-Men game. I am. I'm not gonna lie. Like that, I think could be really cool.
Every one of these, I expect to be good.
Like depending on how many playable characters there, because it's not just a single character. This could be like
that would be crazy if it was like what's it? The Warriors games.
Warriors games.
I forgot the franchise, but Hyrule Warriors was based on
where it's kind of like that. Yeah. Where
that would be nuts.
That would be cool. Koei Tecmo, the people that make the Warriors games, they actually made a Marvel Ultimate Alliance game a few years ago.
Oh, they did?
So it wouldn't shock me if maybe they did something like that at some point.
That would be crazy.
Okay, so some other interesting details is for the Wolverine game, a whole playable test build of the game is leaked and playable on PC.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Like,
that's a big deal.
An internal demo is completely playable. People can download it like an executable and just open her up. So people have a taste of what, they're going for with the combat. I mean, like, just years of, like, surprises, controlled, like...
Yeah, hyper controlled, multi-million-dollar ad space, surprises.
Yeah. Like,
just ruined.
Yeah. Some other interesting details. There were pitch documents and concept art for a scrapped live service Spider-Man game, which kind of goes back to that story of how Sony is like wanting every one of their studios to have some kind of live service game. So it looks like this is when Sony asked for pitches from everyone.
Yeah.
This must have been Insomniac's pitch, but I guess, and let's be thankful, they told Insomniac no on that one. Just focus on your single player story games.
Which is, that's a positive. I doubt that was their only pitch. I'm sure they required...
Maybe that's the one that like made it the furthest along.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. There was some... The concept art for the game looked interesting, and like the kind of like pitch for it sounded interesting, but I mean, ultimately all their live service games kind of go down like a rabbit hole you don't normally want to go down,
right?
Especially when it's like a mandated,
right? I mean, it is mandated.
Yeah.
Sony says everybody do this.
Exactly.
That's mandated.
Yeah.
But as far as the industry is concerned, especially like companies like Sony who want to develop 11 so they can have one hit live service game.
Yeah.
It's flooding the market, and it's not for gamers.
Yeah,
it's not like they're not doing this for gamers.
2 or 3 years of a developer's like life.
Yeah.
And then like it doesn't resonate with people,
so
and then
cut it.
Yeah.
And then
that studio, maybe they all lose their jobs.
Pull the plug on the servers, close the studio, and that's just mean and evil.
Yeah.
And also, you're flooding gamers with all these live service games. Give them something else.
They don't want. For the most part.
We have enough. We have plenty. But they won't stop. They just...
No.
And
so many live service games don't know how to actually be a live service game.
Right.
Like, they launch with, like, a big amount of content up front, but then, like, players chew through it real quick, and then they're looking for, like, hey, what's the end game? And then there's never an end game.
Yeah.
Or the end game is, like, so horrifically bad and boring that, like, players immediately just fall off of it. Whereas you have games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail where, like, their pipeline is designed to keep giving gamers new content, So it's like they actually have that figured out. And, like, 'cause their game is designed from the ground up.
Right.
There was never any mandate. They were like, we're going to make it a never-ending game.
And one thing, that's interesting you say that, because that studio specializes in live service games, and they, like you said, design their games. Their game design is from document state about being a live service game. And Sony is trying to take other games that their studios are working on, like Naughty Dog, and have them turn existing projects into live service games.
Yeah.
Almost doomed to fail.
Exactly.
It's
like you have a studio who doesn't want to make a live service game.
Is working on something that is not a live service game, and you want them to tinker it into that, and that's not going to work.
By the way, there was a little update on Naughty Dog, which we'll have to insert in here after we've talked about Insomniac. I don't have any information to provide, but I totally forgot about it, and I want to talk about it briefly with you.
Okay.
So another interesting detail for people is precise sales data and profit for every single Insomniac game were found in these documents. Like, going back to, like, the PS1 sales data for, like, all the Spyro games.
Crazy.
In that information, we found out that Sunset Overdrive, back when Insomniac was an independent studio, they had worked with Microsoft on this game called Sunset Overdrive. After break-even costs and everything, Insomniac made $567 in profit from the game.
Right. Yeah, that's
years and years and years of
that's mind bending to
work.
think about.
They made less than $1,000.
Yeah,
that's nuts. And the game sold almost 2 million copies, 1.9 million copies.
So that basically means that it costed $1.9 million to make it.
Effectively, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they had to sell 1.9 million copies to break even.
Yeah.
Effectively. There's something in here that I don't have. I read another break-even statistic that they had. I think Spider-Man 2, the most recent one that just came out earlier this year, had to sell something like 7... I can't remember the exact number, but it was like, let's say it was 7 point something million copies at full price in order to make back the production cost. And as of like a month, or whatever the numbers were, a month or so after the game had come out, maybe 2 months, it was only at like 6 point something. Oh, so they still haven't recouped costs.
Wow.
Now maybe by Christmas time they've sold those extra millions of copies.
I mean, you can just look at that game and see how expensive it was to make. You know.
There was also some interesting documents where they were talking, like there were like an internal discussion where they were like breaking down like it makes more financial sense. Like they could make 3 smaller games for way less money than it costs to make 1 big game.
Right.
And it was interesting to see them like talking like maybe
yeah.
Why are we doing this? We could be doing this.
Right.
We could be delivering more for less.
Right. And that's 3 chances of having a big hit.
Right.
As opposed to 1.
Yeah. And I mean, I think they're kind of like they did that because they learned that lesson when they put out the Miles Morales Spider-Man game because it was a smaller game. And they saw that like it still had a huge amount of sales and they had to spend, only a fraction of what they were spending on some of the other Spider-Man games that they made and were working on.
Right.
So, I don't know. That to me is kind of a cool thing to hear because I would love more...
them to do that.
And I would love more games and smaller games.
Right.
I'd rather jump into a 20-hour game than a 60-hour game.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 3 20-hour games scattered out over 3 years as opposed to 1 60-hour game scattered out over 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Give me the 1.
Right.
Let's see. Their sales data for other first-party PlayStation studios was also unearthed in the documents, including for our very first time a look at what Bloodborne from Software and Japan Studios had sold.
Really?
And I think it was about 7 million copies, which is very, very good for those kinds of game standards.
Yeah.
And when people saw that number, people had always assumed that Bloodborne sold very poorly.
Right.
People that's why they never made another one. But
right.
seeing that it sold, 7 million copies, people are like, why did they never make another one? That's crazy.
I think, isn't Bloodborne somehow related to Dark Souls? Like
it's made by the same developer. Right. It uses a lot of the same kinds of system, but it is its own separate.
It's not connected to the universe.
Not directly, okay. No. It was made in partnership with the studio that makes Dark Souls and Demon Souls and Elden Ring.
I played the Bloodborne demo at
me too.
And
at PSX.
I liked it.
I was bad at it. I was really bad at it. I tried playing Bloodborne when it first came out, and that kind of told me Souls games weren't for me.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that would like to go back and try again, because I remember the first time I played Metal Gear Solid, I was like, this game's not for me. It controls funny, and I don't get it.
Right.
Like, I couldn't get past the first room in Metal Gear Solid for, in 2 hours. Whereas it's just, trying to avoid, 2 people.
You know when Resident Evil 2 came out on Nintendo 64? Okay. I felt that way about it.
Yeah.
Because of just how it controls.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, why did I just waste $60 on?
Yeah, right.
And
most popular Resident Evil title ever.
Yeah. And then I ended up coming back to Metal Gear Solid a year later or something like that, and I got it to click.
Yeah.
And then it's I just ate that game up.
Right. As far as the Dark Souls-esque type games, I've been playing Neo. Not recently, but the first Neo game. It's I don't know. Having tried Dark Souls a long time ago, I think this one appeals to me more.
Yeah. The setting.
Yeah, the setting, and it is medieval while also being
fantasy.
Fantasy and Eastern, Asian feudal Japan or whatever. And it just, I don't know. Neo, try it. Try that one.
Okay, and then there was another story, kind of within this story. A document was found. Sony appears to be pressuring Insomniac to reduce their full-time staff by 50 to 75 people. Yeah. This is where we get a little salacious and kind of like... This is kind of... and some of these documents were dated like November of this year.
Right.
Like very recent stuff.
Q4.
So these... as someone who works at I don't work at Naughty Dog, but if I was someone who worked... Sorry, not Naughty Dog, Insomniac. If I was someone who worked at Insomniac, and I'm hearing that, like, oh, hey, Sony's telling the president of Insomniac Games, Ted Price, that he's got to find 75 people to cut.
Right. And not telling us.
Yeah. So they're considering a handful of layoffs, not backfilling certain positions, and placing employees in performance improvement plans. And so if you ever get placed on a performance improvement plan, usually not a good sign. Yeah. Usually means that they want to get rid of you.
Right.
And they're only putting you on that performance plan so they can like really start checking you and like having an excuse to like be like, how are you doing? Oh, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong. So they build that documentation of...
It's a termination plan.
Yeah. They can't fire you outright. Well, because it's in California, Insomniac. Right. There's all kinds of rules. You can't just fire someone for no cause. Well, you can fire someone... They're at will.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You can't fire them for any reason.
There's a whole bunch of... You
can't fire them for no reason.
Yeah,
But then there's people... there's the worry that... someone might try to sue or something like that if they don't have a good...
That's probably why.
That's why they need a case. Yeah. That's why you're on a performance improvement plan.
Right. Which is what they call it to make it sound nice.
I mean, maybe 1 out of 10 people make it out of the performance improvement plan.
Right.
And a more recent document from Ted Price, just dated a month ago, shows that they were looking more closely at cutting underperformers on the Wolverine and Spider-Man teams and replacing them with veteran staff that are working on the next Ratchet and Clank and the unannounced new intellectual property. Mm-hmm. So that means those games we were talking about earlier will probably get pushed back in favor of pulling those people back to cover their bases on these fresher teams.
Right.
Which means that new IP might go back further, Ratchet and Clank might go back further. For all we know, those things might fall by the wayside completely.
This is a 10-year plan.
That's scary.
I mean, anything can change in 10 years.
The notes also suggest that Sony is asking for cuts at other PlayStation studios as well. And the line specifically, there will be one studio closure, appears in these notes. So that could mean... Now, Sony did close a studio earlier this year. Pixelopus, I think. They're the people who make Concrete Genie.
Okay.
It was like the last main featured game at the final PlayStation experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm vaguely remembering.
It's actually a great... small little game. I really enjoyed it. I was bummed about that, but some people are wondering, maybe they're talking about what happened earlier in the year, but maybe Sony's looking at their whole portfolio and going, all right, who's going?
I mean, I don't understand. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, but I don't understand why they would opt to close a studio rather than putting it up for sale or something.
Well, okay, so you got to think about it from this way. These studios are all owned by Sony, so Sony owns all of their IP.
Right.
So what are they selling? They're selling the people,
right.
I guess. The people who have failed to put out a game as a team or not produce results.
That's not, but that's not why they closed them. They closed them because their game didn't perform as great as their expectations.
Right. So what is a buyer looking for? A bargain? I mean, what are they actually buying? Why not just let Sony fire those people and then hire them without paying Sony a finder's fee?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Unless there's like IP on the table that's coming with the sale.
Yeah.
Like valuable IP. I mean, I think that's why more often than not we see closures rather than sales.
Yeah.
Insomniac took a while, but they eventually released a statement. And so, as we do on the Bit Beacon broadcast, we will read this statement. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay. Insomniac on December 22nd said, "Thank you for the outpouring of compassion and support. We're both saddened and angered about the recent criminal cyber attack on our studio and the emotional toll it's taken on our team. We have focused inwardly for several days to support each other. We are aware that the stolen data includes personal information belonging to our employees, former employees, and independent contractors. It also includes early details about Marvel's Wolverine for PS5. We continue working quickly to determine what data was impacted. This experience has been extremely distressing for us. We want everyone to enjoy the games we develop as intended. However, Insomniac is resilient. Marvel's Wolverine continues as planned. The game is in production and will no doubt evolve throughout development, as do all of our plans. We will share official information about Marvel's Wolverine when the time is right. On behalf of everyone here, thank you for your ongoing support during this challenging time."
This is why cybersecurity is so important, folks.
You know, it's probably the lamest thing that made this leak happen. Someone probably clicked on a link, thought they were on Outlook, typed in their email address, and boom, that guy now has access to your PC, whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if it was the president of the company.
You're right. That's happened before, I'm pretty sure. But this kind of thing happens all the time, and it usually is something mundane like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never... Hacking is not... it's more social engineering.
Yeah, it is. In real life. Not in the movies, but
no, not
in
in the
life.
Movies.
Yeah, it's not like they sent some program into the server and, bypassed all the...
Some little robotic spider crawled under the desk and plugged it itself into the USB drive.
Or some virtual spider.
Yeah. Crawling through the cyber web.
Right. That's not what happened. They sent a phishing email and someone clicked on it.
Yep. I hope it's someone high up and not someone low on the totem pole. Because if you're low on the totem pole, you're done.
Yeah, you're done. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I think even high on the totem pole, this could get you canned.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe... Yeah, you'd have to be. I don't know. I guess there's probably going to be some IT.
I'm sure they're already investigating. Yeah. They've probably been investigating since. Because
they're not just making PlayStation games; they're making games with Disney.
Yeah.
So Disney wants to see some accountability too. They have partners.
Yeah. Yeah, Disney is the most inflexible of them all. But
this, like you were just saying, this happens so much all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
Like. Every week you hear about some crazy new big cyber attack.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, oh, well,
I mean, it wasn't a cyber attack, but we had that Microsoft leak where they sent the documents with all the attachments to the report. Stuff like that happens a lot.
So it's almost like, I guess this is just doing business in the current day.
It is definitely a factor of the games industry at this point.
I mean, you hear about stuff like let's say some first responder didn't respond, and so the parents of the family sue some some
whatever medical center
or the county or the city for like millions of dollars, and then like that guy still has a job though, like often you see stuff like that.
Yeah, well, he still has a job until the company gets sued and they're like, okay, what happened?
But usually it's like the county or something. I mean, it's like they know that this guy...
Yeah. Well...
I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like...
I don't know that
imagine you cost the company like $1 million and they're like...
Right.
Try better next time, sonny.
I don't think that's reality.
No? You don't think that happens?
No, I think that person stays with the company until they go through the lawsuit and stuff.
Okay.
And then they find out what happened, for themselves, and then find out it was this person.
Yeah.
And then that person's gone.
Okay.
I don't think they just get to keep their job indefinitely. It might take some time
to get rid of them.
Yeah, but because they want to get their facts right.
Right.
Stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be that person.
No.
No.
No, you don't.
And all you do is click on an email.
Yeah.
That looked like a normal email.
It was, yeah.
And then your life is over.
A very innocent act.
Okay, real quick before we jump into this next topic, I want to talk about Naughty Dog. They publicly announced that they were canceling their live service game. This will be real quick.
Yeah.
They were working on a live service Last of Us like multiplayer game,
right?
And we had heard earlier this year.
This is what we heard about, right?
Yes, that it was on ice indefinitely,
right?
Something to that effect. So Naughty Dog finally came out and said something. I think maybe 2 weeks ago that the game was canceled. It would not be coming out. They said that their studio is basically just not built to support a live service game, and that it would have demanded all of the studio's attention to support it.
Right.
And like single player games would have to get canceled effectively to support this live service game.
This is interesting because now we know that there's pushback from all these Sony studios that are being told they have to do live service games. There's no way the top dogs, well,
do you remember the original story is that Bungie told Naughty Dog your game sucks?
Right. No, well, Sony had Bungie come in and like do a review of Naughty Dog.
We know that happened, but the rumor is that the review was not good.
Right.
And so, is this Naughty Dog using this as cover, or do we believe Naughty Dog, or do we believe the rumor?
Well, it doesn't matter who you believe. It's clear that Naughty Dog didn't want to work on this project.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because Last of Us had a multiplayer game. Even the Uncharted games originally had like multiplayer modes.
Yeah.
Like popular ones, and they were small and simple. They didn't demand a live service kind of attention.
Right.
And that's all people wanted from The Last of Us 2.
That's just online features. That's not...
Yeah. I mean, like, it was like a separate game mode. It was like, single player, multiplayer, and then, like, single player's a story, multiplayer's like a versus, deathmatch style thing.
Right.
And so the original Last of Us had this factions gameplay mode that people really liked. And all they had to do was make factions in The Last of Us Part 2, add some new bells and whistles, make it look extra pretty like The Last of Us 2 does, and people would have been happy.
Yeah.
Instead, Sony told them, hey, make it live service. Make it a whole standalone game.
For all we know, that's how this started. They were going to do something like that for Last of Us 2, and then Sony's like, no. We need that for our live service. Yeah.
It needs to be able to sell it standalone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
not just included for free.
It's obvious that Insomniac was supposed to work on a live service project, right?
Yeah.
And they're being told now, just focus on your single player. It's what you're good at. Same with Naughty Dog. They were told that they were going to work on a live service project.
It seems like they got far.
Yeah, I'm sure they put in a lot of effort.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Further than just like a pitch document.
Right.
Like they had playable.
Well, obviously because
built.
Bungie reviewed it. Well, I guess you could review like a game design document, but I'm sure they had a vertical slice of some sort to show Bungie. But Insomniac and Naughty Dog, you can't tell me that both these studios, their heads, did not push back on Sony.
Yeah.
Hard when they were being told that they need to do this. I mean,
they say don't bite the hand that feeds.
Right. You can't bite the hand that feeds, but negotiation is also part of the business partnership. Yeah. And so what this tells me is that there's this internal struggle going on in the industry where the big guys want streaming, they want live service, they want all of these big, bigger money-making, I don't want to call them schemes, but you know what I mean. And the publishers who are in the middle between the gamers, they're pushing back like there's a struggle going on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're being told what to do because they're owned, but there is drama behind the scenes, guaranteed.
I wonder if are Insomniac and Naughty Dog big enough that like they can tell Papa Sony, sorry, we're not doing this.
If they want to stay under Sony, no, they have to capitulate.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, clearly they've both managed. I mean, like, Insomniac, either they were told, no, we don't like your game pitch, don't do it.
I think that both studios are big enough to survive on their own if they could buy their independence like Bungie did a couple times, or at least once. You know, I could see Naughty Dog doing what Bungie did. I could see Insomniac doing what Bungie did. And they're big enough to survive on their own, and they have the intellectual properties to do that. But if they're trying to stay under,
Sony's going to let them walk away with their IPs?
No. No. I mean, Ratchet and Clank and Spyro. Well, Spyro's owned by Activision now,
but which is now owned by Microsoft.
Right. So weird. But Ratchet and Clank, you know, that's Insomniac's. Like, you can't tell me if they walk away, they're not negotiating.
I mean, I'm sure they'd try.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know that Sony would be like, sure, we'll let you have Ratchet.
Right. Well, it's a buyback, you know, so for the right price. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of... How do you... Yeah, I don't know how you even do that. Like, because your money is not your money. Your money is Sony's money. So how do you buy...
Well...
How do you use Sony's money to buy yourself away from Sony?
The person who is trying to buy the company, which would usually be like the founder or the CEO of the child company, comes up with his own, fund
his own capital
to do it. Not necessarily personal money,
right?
But he could go seek investors. Yeah. I'm not a business, like, you know, you're talking to the wrong guy about that stuff. But my only point here is that we see, you know, like proof, basically, in my mind, that there is drama going on between publishers and console holders, big time. Because the publishers aren't liking this live service
direction. Yeah. I mean, how many of their friends and compatriots in the industry have they seen like fall?
Yeah.
You know, trying to make one of these things.
It's a death wish for a studio to start one of these big projects, because it's going to mean layoffs. Yeah. It's going to mean closures.
Or, you know, that 1% chance that just means like untold riches.
That 1% chance that your parent company is going to get massively, massively rich.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And we're back from our break. And we've got one more discussion topic we have for this episode. We're trying to make this a little brief because we're going to do a second episode right after we record this episode.
Yeah.
Because someone's going out of town again.
I'll be out of town for New Year's, so that episode has to be pre-recorded. But we want to talk about just how 2023 has been a great year to be a gamer, because lots of games.
Lots of great games released this year.
Yeah. But to be making games, not so great. And we're going to start with... well,
let's mention, we've been doing this podcast for 3-4 months, something like that. September, I think, was our first episode.
Yeah, I think so. So it's week 14. or 15. Because didn't we do our first episode 2 weeks?
Something like that. Yeah. So at least... Yeah, like 4 months we've been doing this now.
Yeah.
And we've been talking a lot about layoffs all year long.
Yeah, it's been, it's like the layoff podcast.
Yeah. We should retitle it The Layoff.
Right.
It'll be some cool romantic comedy.
The Layoff Beacon.
The Layoff Beacon. Well, speaking of the Layoff Beacon, jumping ahead a little bit in this story, or this discussion, but there's this website called videogamelayoffs.com.
Yeah.
And they've been spending all year tracking all of the layoffs across the industry.
Yeah.
It's particularly...
It's dedicated to just that.
Yeah, video game and like video game adjacent kind of things like Twitch are included too.
Tech companies.
Yeah, I mean tech that specifically have like an emphasis on video games.
Gotcha.
And they have tracked more than 9,000 jobs being lost this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 9,000, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Last year, only 1,000 jobs were lost in 2022.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I mean, this year we had Zelda, we had Alan Wake 2, we had Starfield, we had Mario Wonder, we had Baldur's Gate 3, and we had Spider-Man 2. We had so many huge, high-quality releases. It was a very competitive year at the Game Awards. We had Street Fighter 6. We had Mortal Kombat 1.
Yep.
I mean, just like mega game after mega game.
Yeah, big titles.
But, behind all these mega games, there's a hidden human cost.
Yeah. When you're laying people off, there's always a human cost.
Yeah. And so, gamers have just been touting that this is the greatest year for games ever been, ever been recorded.
Right.
And, when you look at, at the Metacritic scores, maybe there's an argument to be made there. Like, this might be one of the most high-quality years we've ever seen on record.
Right.
But when you pull back the curtain and start looking at the numbers, it's never been such a scary time to be working in games.
Right. I would say that's true. There were times in the 80s when...
the video game industry was, gone for a minute.
Right. And then also, again, when I graduated college in 2011, which I'll talk about more, but, yeah, there have been times when the industry's been up and when it's been down, but I think this is probably the scariest it's ever been.
Yeah. And, is this just a one-off year? Is this, a sign of things? Are they going to get worse?
I don't think games are ever going to go away. It's never,
no.
It's not like that. But I think this is a big shift. It's indicative of a big shift. Mm-hmm. What I'm thinking, and this is kind of just theory, but we have this massive push, like I mentioned before, towards streaming, toward live service, all the things that these giant conglomerates want to do because it's super profitable, and you're getting pushback from publishers and
developers.
Yeah. Publishers and developers. And I think that's creating, the games don't come out the way that they need to make those big bucks, and close the studio, lay people off. Unity, what they're pulling. I think that's also kind of a push in the same kind of money-making direction, which is not in favor of developers. It is in favor of big studios, with their install fees, favoring the big studios. I think there's a shift. There's kind of I don't want to call it a revolution, but there's enough of a natural pushback happening that it's causing a shift. It's either something's going to succeed or something else is going to succeed at this point. We're at a crossroads in a way.
And now we have all these people now looking for jobs. Mm-hmm. We have people coming out of college in these design programs.
Right.
Now they're all looking for a job at the same time.
Okay, so in 2011 is when I graduated college with my game design degree.
Right.
And I was dumped into a job market that was in a recession. And it was completely dominated with veteran game designers and developers. So much so that the companies looking for positions, or looking to fill positions, were changing. It forever changed the job requirements for jobs.
Right. Must have 10 years experience.
Yeah, must have 10 years experience. Must have shipped 4 titles. No college graduate has 10 years experience and shipped 4 titles.
Yeah, I almost wonder, what college graduates were getting jobs? Where were they getting jobs? Is it through internships or something?
Okay, with that kind of thing, it's who you know. I've found out. Because I've reflected, life reflected on this kind of thing. Because it affected me big time. My life would be very different if the market or the video games industry was in an up position when I got dumped into it.
You could have got hired at a studio.
Yeah, I could have
shipped 3 games.
I could be an art director at this point. You know, but yeah, I'm not, because I got dumped into the job market that I did, and after 2.5 years of trying very hard to get a job, I said, you know what, I have all the skills to make a game myself. Don't really have the manpower, but I have all the skills. Mm-hmm. So if it's just going to be me spinning my wheels, why not start making my own projects?
Right.
And I still don't have one out, but that's how that direction took hold.
Right.
And I think what this is going to result in is the indie scene going boom.
Again.
Yeah, hard.
Well, but let's talk about the indie scene. The indie scene is not the same anymore.
No.
The indie scene is now filled with industry veterans.
Yeah.
And they're only indie in that they
don't have a parent
self-funded game.
Right.
But like they
have AAA talent, they have AAA leadership, they have AAA resources.
Yeah.
They have AAA budget.
Yeah, there's now indie publishing houses.
Yeah, which is not indie.
Yeah. It's like
the opposite of
the game Cocoon that won at the Game Awards.
Right.
Their publishers accepted the awards for them.
That's right.
So if that's not the most backwards thing,
yeah, how is that indie?
I mean, I'm not like saying I'm sure Cocoon is wonderful.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it was made by a really small team.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a financial backing and security,
when you have a publisher, you're not indie. You're not.
You're not truly indie in my estimate. And I get it. Like these are like studios. These are publishers that help small independent studios initially, or people that got to a certain point in their indie games development.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, I'm at the point where I need help now. I can't take the game any further. And so I see that these publishers like Annapurna Interactive are a wonderful thing, and they help people get their games over the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the agreements are different. I doubt that like Annapurna owns their IP or anything like that. I think they keep a very hands-off kind of approach to like that kind of a thing. But right. I mean, they still are giving these developers the kind of support that true indie devs don't have. Like the guy who made Stardew Valley, he didn't have some guy financing or some company financing their game for them.
So you're 100% right. And in my mind, indie means, well, there's an image that goes with it, but definitively it means you don't have a parent company, you don't have a contract with a publisher, you don't have anything.
Right.
It's just you.
Yeah.
And to have a publisher of any sort makes you definitively not independent.
I mean, I think there are some shades there.
Sure.
Like they're like, for the example of like limited run games, all they're doing is publishing your game physically.
Yeah,
it's still your game.
That's not really. They're a publisher in that they put out titles, but they're not
funding your game.
Yeah, they're not supporting you.
Yeah.
So the indie scene is filled with these industry veterans who have left their studios and started their own companies, as well as the indie developers and game designers who got in really early into the indie scene and are now personally millionaires.
Yeah.
And have that budget.
Yep.
So yeah, good luck being a new solo dev at this point. There's still a lot of room for you.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it's gotten
tighter.
Harder. Yeah, and people are like, the image that an indie game has now is like a 5-hour AAA game.
You're right.
It looks like a AAA game, but it's only 5 hours long.
It's like indie became a buzzword, and companies learned how to use it.
Yeah.
That's almost how it feels.
So it's like, if your game actually looks like an indie game, like a real indie game, not today's indie game,
right?
Like, people are gonna look at it and go like, well, why would I play that?
Well, I don't think that people are that turned off by that stuff yet, because that stuff was very popular in like 2016 and stuff. And those people are still around, and that there's still an appetite, I think.
There is. I just worry that like it's being diluted.
Oh yeah, it is 100% being diluted. 100%
because people's expectations of what an indie game should look like or play like
are being changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And remember when indie games were like $10 to $15?
Yeah.
And now I'm being asked to pay $50 for an indie game. It's nuts.
But the game that's $50 is not indie.
Yeah, it's not.
It's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, to play an actual pixel art little Infinite Runner or something that someone put together and stuff. And I mean, I don't think your game has to be like Twitch.io stuff to be indie either.
Itch.io.
Sorry, what did I say?
Itch.io is a digital game distribution platform
for PC.
And some other software too. Yeah. I buy Game Boy games on Itch.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or like homebrew Game Boy games, right. I should say.
But it's very homebrew friendly. It's very small, developer friendly.
And most games are like $1 to $5.
You would look out of place putting your $30 AAA experience on there.
You're like, who's this? They wouldn't welcome it really. I mean, they would probably let you list it, but they wouldn't know what to do with it.
It would just look out of place on the store. Yeah. But, you know, a lot of games are 2-minute experiences and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to be that to be indie. You can be on console, but your game still has a certain specialness to it, you know, that can't be replicated when there's lots and lots of people involved. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the indie scene is turning into this. And what is going to happen is the same kind of thing that happened in 2011 with my case, is that the job market is going to be flooded with industry veterans with their 10, 20 years experience and their 10 games shipped. And newcomers are going to have no chance. There's going to be no room for them.
Yep.
So they're going to be pushed into the indie scene. Veteran developers who can't get a job or whatever, you know, their resume is just not as great as the average or whatever, are going to be pushed into the indie scene. And
so you're maybe sensing sort of a cycle sort of renewing itself.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening.
In almost a good way.
We're in an autumn season of a certain arc of the video game history.
Okay.
And winter's coming, and then spring will come.
Okay.
And that's how it works. That's how everything works. That's how civilization works.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this indie rebirth.
Yeah. I mean, it can only, like, in the kind of market that we have, it, like, what the consumer wants is going to be what succeeds and survives. You know, companies can try as hard as they want to push streaming on people.
Right.
But if people don't want streaming, it's not going to happen. You know, they're going to waste a lot of money, and a lot of jobs are going to be lost, and a lot of layoffs are going to happen, but that shift will happen.
Right.
It'll be brutal, but it will happen. That's my take on, like, you know, how that works.
So pretty much right now, it's scary time.
Yeah.
To be someone who already works in the game industry. It's a scary time to be someone who will soon be entering the game industry.
Even scarier for that person,
I'd say. Even scarier. But, I mean, if you really want to make it happen, you know, you should do it. But if you're, like, on the fence about this, you don't have your whole heart in it, you know, maybe look elsewhere. It's not for the faint of heart.
I worry about the art form taking on sort of what happened with musicians and actors and stuff like that, where it's just impossible. It's a dream.
Right.
You know, like, too much of a dream.
Yeah.
To even be a realistic, you know, goal.
It's like we're going to have, like, it's just going to be nepotism, getting, like, people and their friends and family.
It's 100% who you know.
Yeah.
And even in 2011, like, the people that were newcomers out of college, that's how they got their jobs. You asked me that question. That's how it's who you know.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know someone, you're up against veterans.
Yeah. Well, on that cheery note.
Yeah. Doom and gloom.
Since this is our last episode of 2023, I thought it would be fun for us to just kind of real quickly look back on some of the cool things we did this year. You know, game related, Bitbeacon related, and just just go down memory lane for a minute. So I'll start real quick. I just want to say that, like, reviving the Bitbeacon, raising it from the earth has been, like, a major highlight. I've really loved doing this week after week. It hasn't got old for me yet.
That's good. I think 2024 is going to have a lot more regarding the Bitbeacon.
I think 2025.
Why do you think that?
No, I'm kidding.
I see myself writing next year and stuff. Like
Okay.
actually starting to blog again. And
You got access, dude.
yeah.
I'm really excited that like game events are back. Sans E3.
Yeah.
But, you know, like everything else is kind of in the full swing of things. I mean, we saw it with the Final Fantasy event earlier this year.
Yeah.
That was really cool to go to something big and bold like that. Some of the little smaller stuff at like Gallery Nucleus.
Some things are dead. Some things are gone. Like you mentioned E3. I Am 8-Bit is not a store anymore.
They're not a store anymore, but they still have a presence. Like they helped run that Day of the Devs thing I went to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's the Game Awards, which you know we know is a mixed bag. And like PAX is there. Nintendo Live. Nintendo had their first like U.S. soil Nintendo Live event.
Gallery Nucleus and everything they do.
Mention them.
Yeah.
And you know, for like gaming wise, I think Tears of the Kingdom was like a really big highlight for me, and I just love getting lost there in that version of Hyrule, and we'll play a lot of Pokemon. Just can't stop playing Pokemon. That got a lot of my time this year too.
The biggest thing,
even though it came out last year.
For me, reviving the Bit Beacon is obviously a big deal. I think of it more as like a next year project, just because we started it toward the end of this year.
Yeah.
In like busy season.
Yeah.
And I think next year is when we're really gonna like blossom.
Yeah, I'd like to see us going to more stuff, doing the event blogs again, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah. Like galleries, photo galleries, and event coverage and stuff like that. What we were known for back in the
originally.
Day. And events, like you mentioned, for me, my biggest highlight event-wise, hands down, Final Fantasy 16 event with the Square Enix CEO coming up on stage and giving a speech in front of our eyes. Yeah. It was, I don't know. I have like a very big soft spot.
It was very intimate. It really was. We got like very close to a lot of like cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
They went really big on it. I wonder.
A lot of influencers. Like they were really pushed the influencers.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they got in early and stuff. And that's how you do marketing now.
I don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah.
You know.
One day you might need influencers.
Yeah. So I get it. Yeah. I understand it. But yeah, that event was just the one for me.
Yeah. I felt like it was like, oh my god, things are back.
Yeah.
Like this is cool. Like Square Enix went hard.
Like a festival, like a Final Fantasy festival.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
And gaming wise, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scarlet and Violet, the DLC.
Earlier this year, like the first half of this year, before we even started recording the Bit Beacon, you were going harder on that game than I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing all of the outbreaks every day.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Getting every shiny, every outbreak every day.
So, I probably have upward of 400 hours at least.
Yeah. So I guess, we want to just thank the listeners for joining us on this new venture.
Yeah, thank you guys. I mean, for those of the few listeners we have, we don't know how many exactly.
If we never look, we never know.
Yeah.
So for all we know, we have like 1,000 people listening right now.
That could be the case. We probably should look. That'd be good information to know.
Yeah.
But those of you that do listen, thank you so much. I mean, we don't have a reason to do this if no one's listening. So.
Well, I do.
For posterity and stuff. I don't know.
I just enjoy doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too.
I do it for me and you.
Yeah. There's that. I mean, sure, but come on. You gotta have like goals.
It's nice to be heard.
Yeah. For me though, like, I don't know. I think the listeners are the most important part.
Yeah.
I know for you, like, there's a posterity factor and stuff, and I get that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm gonna shoot this, buy a SpaceX capsule and shoot it into deep space.
Yeah, exactly.
Every episode loaded onto an individual USB drive.
Shoot it into deep space from the Bit Beacon.
That's right.
That's right. Through signals.
All right, so yeah, we just want to wish you all a happy new year.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2024.
And transmission.